getting into coaching or training just to make more money without the skills is like opening a restaurant because you're hungry for cash. If you're not ready to provide real value, your coaching business will be a revolving door of disappointed clients. Credibility is built over time. The more you give, the more you grow. Welcome back to the Beauty Industry Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Before I start today's episode, I do want to take a moment and say thank you so much for the last almost 6 months of this podcast. If you have been a loyal listener, if you've been tuning into the weekly episodes, if you've shared the episodes with anyone else you think would benefit from listening to them, or if your name is Lolly Lashes or Beth, who's left me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. I honestly had no idea what this podcast would bring about. And if it's taught me anything, there's so much room for all of us to start connecting, growing, and evolving together in the industry. When I first entered the industry, I found there was a lot of competition. People were very secretive and sometimes quite nasty, to be frank. However, after creating this podcast, after receiving DMs and connecting with people, I realized that by the way I present the content, the type of guests I interview, and just the way we structure everything, I never expected to build such a beautiful community of people who really do want to lift the standards of the industry, who really do want to connect and feel like they're a part of something, but also just learn and grow and evolve and work towards becoming the best version of themselves. So if no one said this to you this year, I want you to take this moment and just give yourself a pat on the back for showing up, for being a business owner, for doing your best. Because in life, in business, in relationships, things will come up, times get tough, but you are stronger than that. You're more resilient and you are so resourceful to find the answers and the solutions to come out 10 times stronger. And so if you're listening to this podcast, welcome to the club. Thank you for being a part of the community. And I really look forward to closing out 2024 on such a high, despite all of the crap and the hardships and the struggles, and knowing that all of that was pretty much setting us up for growth. For more growth, more lessons, and expansion in 2025. And that's what we're all going to be doing together here. So thank you. And I really look forward to sharing a little bit more about my journey with Wild West Bowling now, because if you've been tuning into these episodes weekly, I probably kind of left you sitting on the edge where, I'm not sure if we're going to open. And then we had the PR stuff. So to give you an overview, we were meant to open on the 22nd of November. 2 days before that, we had our building certifier come on site and he told us that he couldn't do all the ticks of approvals yet. And that was because we were cowboys. We didn't actually have a builder do all our building. We did the building. We ended up borrowing his ticket. He did sign off and come on a few times, but majority of it was all built by us. And so we got pulled up on a few small things. I have had it to my wit's end with government rules and regulations this year. However, I will share a little bit of insight as to what we struggled with. So firstly, we had this disability toilet railing installed and it was 10 mil too high. So what do you got to do? You got to take all the screws out, you got to pull it out, you got to patch the wall back up, and then you got to screw it in and put it in. It's just like crazy. And then he measured every single one of the steps throughout the bowling alley. And do not get me wrong, like I think it's important to have symmetry, but there was this one step that was 280 mil and every other step was 260. And funnily enough, the step that was too tall was at the top of this staircase. And so we had to pull off 15 planks of wood, shave down the wood, and then put them all back on just so every single step was 260 mil. Now, I'm not a builder, but I feel like after doing this whole process, I became a project manager. We had to install all of these tactiles for people with disabilities, so blind people or visually impaired people. It's meant to help them. So you know when you're on a crosswalk and there's those weird dotty things, that's called a tactile. And we had to put them on every single step, not step, sorry, but staircase. So at the bottom and the top, ramps, everything. And you would not believe how expensive these things are. We had so many staircases and ramps. It ended up costing $5,000 in tactiles. And then we put all these railings up for the disability access, but outside, when you've got a whole building, there's a wall, you don't think you need a rail there, but apparently you need a rail there. So we had one side rail, which was the side that you would potentially fall off. That had a hand railing there, but then we had to go pay and get extra hand railing put on the other side, despite there being a building whole wall there. There were just like so many little things. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it was very finicky. And so we needed that weekend when we were meant to have our grand opening to actually spend time fixing up all those little things. The building certifier came back on site on the Wednesday the following week, and he was really happy that we took all of his feedback on board and actually went and actioned it. So he gave us all the tick of approval, went to the City of Albany. The City of Albany were actually on our side because they had a lot of Christmas parties with their different departments booked in with us. So they ended up getting us our certificate of occupancy on the Thursday morning, and then by Friday, we hit the ground running. We had bookings from 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. We're fully booked, and it was just crazy seeing how busy it got, how we managed everything. We didn't have a food ordering system. So as we're getting all these orders in, I'm on the computer trying to create these little like tick box things. And we had the next day our rescheduled grand opening, and it didn't go as planned. And I'll be really honest about it. Like, I was hoping that we'd be fully booked and it would be super positive, but because we were so burnt out and we were so defeated from all the setbacks trying to get the bowling alley open, also working, 14 to 16 hour days, might I add. By the time we had the grand opening, like, we had no energy. We weren't able to market and sell the sizzle for the grand opening purely because we had no idea when we were actually able to open. And when you kind of commit to something and then you say, oh, actually, City of Albany haven't approved us, we can't open, you're going to let people down, and we just didn't want to do that. So we weren't marketing, we weren't selling anything until literally a few days before. So that was a challenge within itself. And we sold 149 tickets, which ended up equating to $7,400. And we had some people who were really stoked. They were happy, like, wow, this is amazing. And then we had some other people who just weren't happy. They were like, oh, the vibe's not here. It's not packed out. You haven't got your food right yet. And it was a really humbling lesson of not taking anything personally, taking all the feedback on board and going, what do we need to do to fix this? And so that grand opening weekend was a blessing in disguise that we were not fully booked out. And I say that because it allowed us to troubleshoot, see how things run, and start creating those standard operating procedures within the business. Very quickly, I found that we actually needed a team of probably about 5 to 6 when it's really busy. So 2 in the kitchen doing food, 1 or 2 in the bar. So you've got one kind of floater who's going around that can either like take food out or help out at the bar if needed. You've got one person on front counter, and then you kind of need a technician. So if anything's going wrong with the lanes, they can run down the back and fix that up. So it's really interesting to see the psychology of this business and understanding how it runs at a larger scale. And the reason being is because we didn't realize we've created a beast to run. It is like 3, almost 4 businesses within the one venue. And so I've learnt so much about really structuring the company to work the best for that type of business, what type of jobs or roles and responsibilities we need within the business, what kind of team we need behind us, what kind of skills, all of those things, mapping that out and going through the hiring process. I just hired an amazing manager. He is so switched on. He is definitely an executor in the sense that He thrives off having those systems and processes in place. If I give him the vision or the strategy behind it, he will be able to go and implement it. And so that has taken a massive load off my plate and also my family's in general, to know that we can trust someone to come in and help with the running of the business, so that next year I can take a step back and really focus on beauty industry leaders and what I'm doing. And, beauty industry leaders has been something that I've not wanted to rush. I've wanted to be intentional with it. And as much as I wanted to launch the community earlier and I wanted to scale the podcast more, I got put in a really tough position where it was like, do I choose myself and my business and go, yep, this is me, I can't help you guys? Or do I watch my family really struggle, work 14 to 16-hour days every single day and go bankrupt? And it was really hard because everyone was in there doing things. I was working remotely and I could just see that we needed to get things over the line. And so I did scale back my business. I realized I couldn't give much more of my time and energy to everyone else. And so instead of letting clients down and instead of trying to launch things and half-assing them, I just decided to pretty much cut back to one-on-one clients, delay the launch of Beauty Industry Leaders Community, and help out my family. And as a result of that, I was able to go implement all my business coaching strategies into that business. We turn over $75,000 within the first month of opening. Well, not even first month, first 3 weeks, I should say. And that's without the liquor license. Being able to help hire a manager. We've got 2 casuals. And, I really felt like I was letting people down. And the people that talked to me a lot that were interested in signing up or doing things, I just explained to them really genuinely, like, I'm human. This is the predicament I'm in. And I'm really sorry if I have let you down. But right now, like, family is a huge value for me. And I can't always give up my dreams and what I want to do for family, but I really see the value in me being able to help them right now. And that was the decision I made, and I stuck with it. And I'm glad that it did work out. And so, if you've listened to this podcast, if you wanted to sign up to the community or you've wanted to work one-on-one with me, I'm really sorry if I let you down. However, I also am glad that moving into 2025, can walk in knowing that I'm giving my full capacity and energy and time and focus into beauty industry leaders. So there's been a lot of really interesting lessons there. And also, with the launch not going to plan, great example of like trying to troubleshoot customer service issues. Like, we had a few unhappy customers, and instead of taking it personally and being all like, well, we're burnt out, we haven't got the time, we just explain like, these are some of the things that happen just so you understand. And we really appreciate you for coming and supporting us in our first weekend of opening. And I'm so sorry that it wasn't up to the standard we would have liked it at, nor you would have liked it at. And so here's what we're doing to rectify the situation. And so anyone who bought 5 or more tickets, they got a $100 gift voucher. So what we were actually able to do was take what we weren't 100% proud of and we weren't happy with how it ran, and we turned it into a real positive for everyone. Number one, we got genuine feedback on ways we could have improved. We got people coming back the next week and bringing other people in and saying, wow, like, look how amazing this is. And instead of just sitting there and going, well, you know what, we don't have the energy, we can't fix this, we actually ended up going above and beyond what their expectations were. And so now we've had so many great customers returning 2 or 3 times, and we haven't even been open for a month yet. So when you think about customer service, challenges that come up, navigating new things, things are going to go wrong. It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have no energy and feel burnt out. But after doing this multiple times in terms of launching businesses, making mistakes, failing, I think it's a really big sign of growth when you can take this as like a feedback loop of how can I improve? What can I learn? What can I do better for next time? And go action that. Because the faster you can start actioning and implementing feedback and innovating and creating better solutions and setting up those systems and processes in your business, the faster you're going to grow and the better type of results you're going to get. So that is kind of an overview of where it's at. The business is doing really well, and I am looking forward to continue updating you with some of the things we've been working on. I've learned a lot about debt management, a lot about HR and team management, leadership. On top of, all of the marketing and sales things, it's been a really interesting business to run. And I think that doing this business made me realize, running a beauty salon is actually not that hard. Like if I compare running the bowling alley to my beauty salon, I take all the hardest things that we're challenged with in the bowling alley, and then I go implement those things into a beauty salon and I adapt them for the industry. There's so many ways that you can increase your revenue, increase your profits, increase your client retention rate. Like I've just learned so much. And sometimes I sit here and I'm like, should I be talking about the bowling alley? This is a beauty podcast. I'm like, nah, that's what makes me different. And this is what has been a part of my life. Like, why am I not going to share this? I'm not ashamed of it. I'm really proud of what we've created and the journey we've been through. But there's actually so much value that I've been able to take away from these experiences and help my clients with. And I know I spoke about this on one of the previous podcasts, but that client Tash, who started out with 6K months in April, end of November, I get this screenshot from her and a message, and she just hit $15,300 in her income. And so, by going out and doing all these things and going, okay, what can we take away from this? What can we adapt? What can you go implement in your business that's going to skyrocket and scale? It's actually so cool because sometimes I feel a little bit conflicted, like, do I talk about beauty? Do I talk about the bowling alley? And I'm like, they're very different, but they're both businesses that are in industries that are considered a luxury. It's not a necessity. And so there's a lot to take away, a lot to learn. And I'm going to keep sharing with you what I'm learning because I'm actually finding it very insightful. So that's my spiel on the bowling alley and updates. What I am going to also talk about today is kind of my role and what it's like being in the world of coaching, consulting, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. So after reflecting on my journey with all the businesses I've been involved in, and then also just this latest project with bowling, I wanted to do an episode talking about the exciting world of education and leadership in the beauty industry. So I'll share the different paths you can explore, whether it's becoming a coach who helps others unlock their potential, a mentor guiding others through personal experience, a consultant solving big business problems, or a trainer teaching hands-on skills to the next generation of professionals. So I'm also opening up about my own journey, specifically the investments I've made in my own personal and professional development and the lessons I've learned along the way. Spoiler, it is not as simple as just start teaching. So there's a lot to consider: your skills, your systems, and most importantly, your ability to deliver real, repeatable results. So whether you're thinking about taking that first step into education or you're already on your way and you want to refine your strategy, this episode is going to be packed with insights to help you build a business with impact, credibility, and staying power. So let's get started. I thought I'd start off with some classic definitions that are good to get your head wrapped around. So I actually think for majority of people who probably listen to this podcast and hear business coach, they don't even really know what I actually do. And so sometimes I sit there and I'm like, am I a business coach or am I more of a consultant? And I think for people more so in the beauty salon, that kind of stage of their journey, starting out to like 3-5 years experience, I'm more of a business coach for them. But when it comes to those one-on-one clients, the people that are tapping into becoming a trainer, an educator, a mentor, or something along the lines of that, I actually act as a consultant. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through some definitions and some explanations so you can better understand what the difference is between these roles and what feels most fitting for you if you are thinking of going down that path. So let's start off with a coach. Their main focus is personal growth, skill development, and achieving specific goals. So coaches will guide you through self-discovery and accountability, asking thought-provoking questions to help you unlock the solutions yourself. So just to get really clear, a coach is not here to tell you this is the exact steps you need to take. They're going to teach you certain skills, but they're going to guide you with the type of questions that allow you to seek clarity and find solutions yourself. So coaches will typically work with you on a structured timeline, focusing on improving specific skills, behaviors, or achieving measurable outcomes. So, for example, business coach might help you clarify your vision. So what is it that you actually want in the long term? How are we going to create that plan to get you there? And then hold you accountable for meeting those milestones. So a coach is like a fitness trainer. They don't do the push-ups for you, but they guide you and motivate you to achieve results. One of the other roles that we see is quite popular is a mentor. So the focus of a mentor is to provide long-term growth, guidance, and sharing experiences. So mentors are often more informal and relationship driven, sharing their knowledge and personal experiences to help you navigate challenges. They provide encouragement and advice based on what's worked for them. So essentially, if you look at a coach is going to go, hey, here's what you need to think about. What do you think is the right pathway for you? Whereas a mentor will go, this is what I've done. And so if you do what I've done, you will achieve what I have, if that makes sense. So a mentor is typically someone with more experience in your field, offering ongoing support and encouragement. So the relationship often evolves over time. So a mentor in the beauty industry might share how they scaled their salon or overcame challenges in leadership, helping you learn from their journey. Maybe I'm a mentor on this podcast, to be honest. But a mentor is like a trusted advisor. So this is someone who has been where you are and is invested in your long-term success. So if I look at my life and the type of people and relationships I have, when I've gone and invested in personal development, it's usually been coaches. However, through my watches, meeting all these multimillionaires, I actually find that I've developed a mentor-like relationship. And so they will show me their strategies for wealth creation, for example. And they're not asking for any money from me. They're not trying to sell me some program. They're actually just there to share their advice because they genuinely want to see me win. And so I think if you're ever wondering what the difference is between a coach and a mentor, a coach is going to teach you those skills. They're going to help you unlock different things. However, the mentor, they're really there to guide you based on their experience, and they're not always looking for financial compensation. So I think that's something really interesting and worth noting when you're looking at investing. Next up, we have a consultant. So a consultant will usually focus on solving specific problems or implementing strategies. So they're more the done with you or done for you. Consultants are subject matter experts hired to assess a situation, provide actionable advice, and often execute solutions. They are less about personal growth and more about delivering results. So the relationship is often short-term and project-based, focusing on achieving specific outcomes. So I've got a really great example here. One of my clients, Ellie, her handle on Instagram is the Beauty Business Society. What she does is she acts as a consultant. So she actually comes into beauty salons, beauty businesses, and she will help set up the teams, teach the managers or leaders how to hold effective one-on-ones. She'll make sure that everyone's doing their daily strategy slips. She's holding everyone accountable and going in and fixing these teams essentially so that they have higher levels of performance. They've got more structure in how they're showing up and ultimately getting more revenue, more productivity, and more efficiency within the business. And so she's in the trenches working with you. She's holding some of these meetings, holding these one-on-ones. And so that's the difference between a consultant. They are actually coming into the business and doing tasks with you. They're not kind of just coaching you or showing you a pathway of where you need to go and then expecting you to do all the hard work. They're actually doing some form of the work with you. And then lastly, we have the educator or trainer. So their focus is teaching specific skills or knowledge, often in a structured setting. So it's really easy for us to understand this because we see a lot of people do this with beauty services. Educators and trainers provide direct instruction, typically using a curriculum or a training program. So they focus on transferring expertise and helping you develop technical or practical skills. So the relationship is often short-term and specific to a course, workshop, or program. So easy example here. A beauty trainer might teach you lash lifting techniques, or business educators might run workshops on financial management for salons. So an educator or trainer is like a school teacher. They deliver the knowledge you need to apply in your work or life. So now that we have a better understanding of the different types of roles we have, so we've got the coach, we have the mentor, we have the consultant, or we have the educator/trainer. I'm just going to use the word coach from now on because I don't want to have to say all 4 words, and I hope that's okay. But please keep in mind when I say coach, it just means any of those terms, whichever pathway you're looking at going down. Getting into coaching or training just to make more money without the skills is like opening a restaurant because you're hungry for cash or you don't know how to cook. Sure, you might get a few customers in the door with flashy ads or a great location, but if the food is bland or inedible, people won't come back. Or worse, they'll tell others to avoid your place entirely. And so to build a successful restaurant or a coaching business, you need to master the craft first, learn the recipes, refine your techniques, and understand what your customers actually crave. Only then can you serve up something that's worth paying for, creating a business that feeds both your soul and your bank account. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because, in COVID times, we saw a lot of people jumping into the coaching, the mentor, the training, the consulting bandwagon. And I think that this dream of running an online business, it's really overportrayed on social media. And recently I had someone book in a call with me and they said they wanted to become a business coach in the beauty industry. And I said, that's amazing. Like, what kind of niche are you looking to get into, or what kind of transferable skills or knowledge will you be teaching others? And within a few sentences, it became very clear that there were no real skills that could be taught to other people yet. And that was exactly where I was when I first started. So I'm not perfect here. I literally sucked before I decided to get into the coaching bandwagon. Like, I was an online course creator. I was really good at getting salons fully booked. I did it with mine. I trialed and tested a few strategies with friends before I started my online course, and it ended up working really well. And so I got into the online course creation world, and then I realized less than 3% of courses are actually finished. So I wanted to get into coaching. And when I got into coaching, I realized that there was more accountability. People were showing up, they were getting better results. And that was where I was actually going to have the most impact in people's lives. And I even look at it in my own life, like, how many courses do you buy online that you go, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then you just never complete them, or you do like 2 weeks and then you forget it even exists. And so with the coaching, I actually found it was great to be able to work with people and hold them more accountable and see them get those results. Now, when you look at getting into this space, you've really got to look at what kind of skills or value do I have to offer? What are people willing to pay for? What do they need help with? How can I make a positive impact? When I first stepped into coaching, I realized something vital, like wanting to help people was not enough. I needed a method that could consistently deliver results. The first 10 clients I worked with were for free, and I focused entirely on giving value, no strings attached. And I used that experience to refine my skills, improve my delivery, and create repeatable outcomes. And that's when I truly became a coach people trusted. So why am I bringing this up? Because often when there's kind of 2 times when people will leave beauty and they'll get into education, training, mentorship, or coaching. It's either because they're looking for a money grab. They're like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. I want to go do something else. And, sometimes this is the people who did an online course and then, 12 months later or, 1.5 years into their journey, they're like, all right, I'm just going to start doing this. Or it could potentially be the person who has been on the tools for 3 to 5 years. They're really good at what they do, but they're looking to now teach those skills to someone else. And so the one thing I found is you actually have to be good at what you do to make it in this industry, because it is like beauty. It's actually quite saturated. There's a lot of people trying to tell you how many K months you can make and how many clients they'll sign you on with and how you're going to be able to charge this much. But before you can even go out and charge what you want for all the knowledge and skills you have, the biggest ego hit is realizing that you have no social proof or credibility, and you've got to build that up. And so when people come to me and they're like, yeah, I want to sell this program for like $2,500, or I want to sell these 10K packages, sometimes you have to sit down and have that reality check of, what kind of testimonials, what kind of proof do you have? Because people aren't just going to hand their money over anymore. They need to know that you've done the work, that you have the value there and that you're worth it. And it's really hard to do that when you don't have social proof and credibility. And so something that I did when I started in my journey was I worked for free. And at first I was like, I'm not going to give all this away for free. Like, my ego was up here, There's no way that I'm working for people for free. I've spent so much money and time becoming who I am today to just hand it away. But the reality was I actually wasn't good at what I was doing. I'd never done it before. And by me building relationships, and you have to be careful with who you choose. You don't just give everything away for free to the wrong people. You kind of vet the people who are aligned with the same values that you can really help and that will appreciate the support. And so picking the right candidates to work with will allow you to help them get results, help you get some testimonials and some social proof, and also gain some genuine feedback on what works well versus what doesn't. And if you are considering doing this, I want you to ask yourself, can I genuinely guide someone to results, or am I just chasing validation or money? Coaching is a responsibility. Educating is a responsibility. Consulting is a responsibility. It's not just about looking successful, it's about helping others achieve success. And that requires skills, knowledge, and a method that works. So coaching without proven skills is like building a house without a blueprint. Sure, you might get the walls up, but when a storm comes or when your clients need real support, it'll collapse. Your skills and method are the foundation. Without them, there's nothing solid to build on. The best coaches don't start with what can I get? They start with what can I give? And by sharing value freely through social media, free workshops, or just helping someone without expecting anything in return, you hone your skills, you build social proof, and prove your methods work. And that's how you create a reputation that people trust. Now, getting into this space, look at the best coaches or the trainers in the world. They didn't start at the top. They spent years mastering their craft. And the truth is, the best coaches have a beginner's mindset. They're always learning, improving, and focused on their clients' results, not their own applause. So if you're thinking about coaching, educating, training, all the things, here's where I would actually look at starting. First off, really look at what are your unique skills or expertise. So what do you have to offer? What have you not only achieved, but how have you achieved it? And is this replicable? Do you have a strategy that you could write out for that? Do you have a system or process? What have you had to move through that you've learned some valuable things about, and that if you were to teach someone else, they would also be able to move through that. They would also be able to get incredible results. What is it about your way that makes you different? So for me, I really struggled with this at first. I didn't know what made me different. And for the first year and a half, almost 2 years of coaching, I never told anyone about the family businesses that I've been a part of, because I thought they would get really confused. And I was like, oh, it's because I'm not a 7-figure beauty salon owner. But what I started to realize was that by me owning my journey in business, I had an unfair advantage. From the age of 5, we've had businesses, 7 different businesses. I've owned 3 of my own businesses. I've had the beauty pageant, I had my beauty salon, and I've also had business coaching. And what I started to realize is that I've been a part of different businesses in different industries. I've been able to learn all the different key skills like marketing, sales, mindset, financial management, hiring, leadership. And for so long, I didn't know what my unique skills were, but it was actually being really resourceful and adaptable, integrating AI to save more time and prevent burnout, and then also just being across all the problems. Like whenever there's a problem and someone comes to me, I either find the solution there and then for them, or I am resourceful enough to ask people within my network what we can do. And so for me, my expertise comes from all my experience, my knowledge, and all the investments I've made to learn new skills. And so when it comes to you, I want you to think about like, what have you invested in? What are the things that you've learned throughout your journey? What are the things that make your skill set the best? And so you don't want to be half-assed as a coach. You don't want to be half-assed as an educator. You don't want to be that person that just took one online course and was like, yeah, I'm going to start doing this. You want to invest a significant amount of time and energy into becoming the best at what you do. Because when you are so good at it, when you know you can get results, the money comes as a byproduct. And so really sit here for a moment and think like, what are you great at? Unhumbly brag about this. Like, what is the thing that you do really well? For me, when I first got into coaching, it was getting salons fully booked. That was what I was the best at. I understood branding. I understood marketing. I understand how to create lead generation posts, how to have those DM conversations that convert. And then as I evolved within my journey, I started bringing in things like the profitable pricing calculator. So teaching people how to price their services for profit. You know, there's so many different things that I can now do that have come through more experience, more training, more investing. But to get started, just choose one thing that you do really, really well, that you're really passionate about, and you know you could teach or help someone else with. Now, the second thing you want to do from there is test your method. So whether you write this down, whether you go in and work with someone on it, however you want to do it, work with friends, work with a colleague, reach out to someone or put a post up and get some expressions of interest. First, what you want to do is actually test this approach and make sure that it can deliver results. After you've done that, the third thing you want to look at doing is sharing your value generously. So you do this through creating content, answering questions in forums, hosting free sessions to refine your delivery. And what you do over time is not only do you get to experience presenting to other people, to be able to give them value, to be able to share your knowledge, you'll create a resource library, you'll be able to get your name out there. And I think that that's like one of the high value things you can do when you're in the starting stages is actually just giving value. For me, I do the podcast. Like this podcast so far has cost me over $13,000, including setup and agency fees and everything like that. You don't have to go create a podcast. You know, you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have Facebook. They're all free platforms that you can go share value with. And when you actually share value and you give to other people, and they can go learn something or they can go implement that and they go get a quick win, they start to trust you more. So they're going to be more likely to buy from you in the future. So when you're sharing that value, the next thing is to be patient. And it's so hard because, you know, sometimes we create these expectations that I want to create this course, I want it to sell out, you know, I want to make this much money, I want to quit my job and go full time into this. But here's the thing, credibility is built over time. The more you give, the more you grow. And so, you know, while you're building up your personal brand, while you're testing things, while you're figuring out what exactly it is you want to do, then you can start moving towards creating an offer. So what is that offer? Is it one-on-one? Is it hybrid? Is it group coaching? Is it a workshop? Is it an event? Like there's so many different pathways that you can go down. And so once you get more clarity on like what is the offer, how long am I presenting for, or how long am I working in containers with people for, or what kind of package am I creating, then you can start to build out how you're going to deliver it. So you might be doing it online, you might be doing it in person, you might be doing these events quarterly. You need to make that roadmap of how you're going to deliver it. Once you've got your delivery down packed, then you move in towards your creation. So how are you going to create this? Is it going to be a resource library? Do you need to make a manual or guide or a booklet of some description? Do you need to think about creating video trainings? So you've now got to get clear on like, okay, how am I going to deliver it? What's the content delivery going to be like? And then what comes after the delivery? So you've got people in your world, they come and take your training, they do your course, they work with you. What does their client journey look like? How are you providing more value for them? How are you helping them get better results? How are you supporting them? And then on the back end of that, how do you offboard them? Like, it's one thing getting them into your world, but if, they're finishing up, do you re-sign them? Do you offer them something into another ascension model? So they're like ascending into the next level of your business, or, are you then one and done? Like, you've got to really think about the whole picture. And I think when I first got into coaching, I worked with a lot of different people and I wasn't really sure what I wanted. And so I trialed and tested everything, to be honest with you. It was a lot. I did a 6-month mastermind. I ran that for about 18 months. I did some 8-day trainings. I did a 10-week. I did a 12-week program. I did some one-on-one coaching. And as much as that sounds like it's a lot, I'm so glad I did it within the first 2 years of doing it, because it gave me so much insight as to what I wanted, what I could actually physically handle energetically. No one talks about this, but sometimes people say, yeah, do this biz model, like this, and this will give you this. And you sit there and you're like, that sounds great on paper, but when you're actually showing up, doing the work, you're burning out. And I think the more and more I stay in the industry and I look at how can I improve, how do I take feedback from my clients, what is the gap in the market, what don't people like, how do I make a solution for that? I've actually been able to evolve and grow and get better results, and all those mistakes and failures and challenges that I've had have brought me to where I am today, doing this podcast, creating the community, and also offering one-on-one. And I'm going to share a bit more insight into that. But to give you an overview of coaching or education or anything like that, it's not just showing up and doing the coaching or doing the training or doing the consulting. You're actually learning how to run another entire business within itself. So what kind of daily tasks you're showing up and doing, how you're managing your cash flow, what kind of tasks are the VAs doing within your business? How are you marketing and selling? And, just to touch on that within itself, it's like, what's your sales funnel look like from start to finish, sorry. From getting the sources of traffic to then having a landing page where people go into the landing page and then they put their details in and then they click submit and then they get sent a lead magnet, and then there's a welcome email sequence that comes off that, and then they get to read all your emails and then they book a call, and then with the call you do there's so many steps to it, and then off the call you've got your sales deck and what it is you're actually offering and what kind of incentives are you using to get them to sign on with you then and there. And if they're not signing on, then, how do you nurture them after to see if you can get them back later? Or if they do sign up, then what's the onboarding process look like? How do we get them into your world? And then how are we creating a great customer experience for them and client journey? And then how do we get them to bring in more people, get referrals? Like, all of this stuff I'm saying right now it's not only applicable to training, education, coaching, it's also very applicable to beauty salons. It's building out that whole journey. And if you don't have that built out and you're just trying to wing it all the time, it gets very, very overwhelming. So I think when people look at getting into this type of business, until they run it or until they do some level of upskilling or get shown how to run the business, they don't realize how much they're in for. And so this is why I've seen a fair few people get into it for 6 months, go, holy shit, this is a hard sell. This is a lot of work, a lot of time. And also the amount of upskilling you need to do and investing in growing the business so you stay ahead and you have the latest strategies and you're trialing and testing things, like that's a whole nother can of worms within itself. So I see so many people jumping into this kind of business model because it looks easy or profitable. But here's the hard truth. If you're not ready to provide real value, your coaching business will be a revolving door of disappointed clients. And I've had my fair share of that. Like when I was starting out, I didn't know what I was doing. I had some kind of idea. I had coaching. I was part of programs. I was getting shown how to do it. But I think you kind of have to make peace with the fact that you're going to have no idea what you're doing for the first year or two. And until you're trialing and testing and just figuring out what works, then you're going to get the ball rolling. So if you're really serious about stepping into this coaching or training, I want you to start asking yourself this: what am I offering that's truly valuable, repeatable, and proven to work? And if you're not there yet, that's okay. I would seriously commit to learning, giving value, and growing your credibility. That's how you build something that lasts. So when I first got into the whole coaching world, it was because I'd transitioned from online course into like, wow, I actually probably need to do coaching so I can make more improvements. And I never just went, yep, I'm going to call myself a business coach with no coaching skills. And I think that's kind of something that I took upon myself. I was like, this is a responsibility. I'm dealing with people's businesses. I'm dealing with their lives. I'm dealing with their money. Like, what do I need to do to become the best at what I do? And so I've often been asked, like, what kind of investments have I made and what were some of the challenges and what were some of the things I wish I did differently? So I'm going to share with you all the things that I invested in to get me to the level I'm at today. And I'm going to share the raw, real, and honest, like, did I like this? Did I not? What did I learn? What I would have done differently. So first off, when I was running my beauty salon, I made the decision to invest in a business coach. So I did the Purpose and Profit Mastermind, which is $5,000. And that was my first introduction to business strategy and skills. So this investment really laid the foundation for understanding the core principles of running a profitable and purpose-driven business. So I learned really basic stuff like ideal client, hot buttons, being able to do lead gen. And I actually invested in this before I opened up my beauty salon the second time. So the first time I failed miserably at home. I think I've mentioned this a few times. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was offering discounts. People were no-showing me. And I worked for someone else. And then I was like technically made redundant. I don't know. And because she was having a baby, but all the things, I ended up going out to open my own business. And I went, I don't want to fail like the first time. Like that was real bad. So I got fully booked within my first month of opening. Like I hit a 10K month and I wasn't the best at what I did in terms of beauty, but I definitely understood marketing better than most people in the area. And so I was technically able to go into this new area, Mount Lawley, open up my business and get fully booked. And it felt really great to know that I had a system to generate leads, aka get clients and make more money. And so that was probably the best thing I learned from that. I then moved into this really awkward stage where I had to close my beauty salon down because I had scoliosis and my uni degree got cancelled and there was a whole bunch of crap that went on during that time. And I was supported by that mastermind to get into the online course creation kind of space, coaching. It was brought up. And so that's how I actually got started in my career. Other people were like, you were really good at setting up salons, getting booked out, creating the policies and procedures, rebooking clients. Like, why don't you package that into something and teach that? And so that was the first thing I actually did. Then I realized probably after about 3 months of selling that course, I honestly am not where I want to be. Like I'm not making enough impact. People will buy the course, but then they're not actually doing it. And so that's when I realized I wanted to become a business coach. So I invested in the Passion to Profits Mastermind. So funny, they sound the same, hey? Which was $7,500. And I didn't have that money up front. I really hustled hard. Like I wanted this. I went and did watches. I was doing modeling. I was doing social media marketing. I was doing reels creation for businesses. I was doing UGC content and influencer work. It was crazy. I was just doing whatever I could to pay that payment plan. And that really gave me a deep dive into building a coaching business. So I got taught how to build a personal brand, how to become an authority within the industry, which is something I genuinely struggled with. Like, I was young, I had imposter syndrome. I thought, who's going to want to even listen to what I have to say? And so they really walked me through the content creation process of how to structure your content, how do you leverage your knowledge and your expertise and share that with the world, and start structuring your coaching programs and how to start signing clients and create a valuable coaching experience for them. So that was really great in helping me setting up my coaching business, essentially. So going from that online course creation to coaching. Then I realized, well, if I want to be a coach, I actually need to understand how to communicate with people, how to teach them things. And so I did NLP practitioner training, which was $5,000. And the reason why I paid more for this training was because you could attend it as many times as you want to really knuckle down on those skills. And so this certification or training, this actually helped me learn powerful communication skills and techniques like reframing, timeline therapy, and really enabling me to help clients shift their mindset and behavior effectively. So when I look at all the other investments I'd made up to that stage, it was understanding kind of business stuff, marketing, for lack of a better word. Then it was how to run a coaching business, how to set that up. But then the next investment was like, how do I actually become the coach? And this taught me a lot about building rapport with people, about honestly my own mindset blocks, and really diving deep into my own projections, and then realizing how to call that out and then how to shift that. You learn hypnosis techniques. It was really interesting, so that like when people come to me with problems, I'm not just telling them, here's what you need to do, or, that's wrong. It was actually asking them questions. Like I was saying within the coaching, you are learning how to facilitate these breakthroughs by asking them the right questions, allowing them to get clarity and come up with the solution themselves. So I fell in love with NLP. I learned a lot, not only about myself, but also about how to help others. And then I really moved and evolved into the NLP Masters training. So then I moved into the NLP Masters training, which cost $11,000. And this was an advanced exploration into human psychology. So this was including spiral dynamics, metaphor construction, and really mastering meta model questioning. So these are all words that you're going to be like, what the hell does that mean? And I probably don't have enough time to explain it on this podcast, but essentially it taught me about how our egos progress, how we really have these conversations to reframe people's mindsets, how to deal with conflict resolution, how to teach people things without personally attacking them through telling a story and being a great storyteller and presenter. And so there was a lot of stuff there that I find really valuable, not only in obviously coaching, but being on the podcast, being able to have conversations with my friends or my partner or my family. And it really taught me a lot about not playing the blame game or the victim mentality, and just understanding that everyone's at a different stage in their life. And our goal is to help them evolve to be a better version or to get to that next level. And so you really dive deep into what people's experiences are, why their perspectives are that way, and what we can do to support them to evolve. So I really loved that, because for me, it wasn't just, I guess, looking at all the experience I'd gained from being exposed to the family businesses, running my own businesses, but it was now actually really tackling that mindset piece. And when you can shift people's belief systems, for example, there's no clients out there, the cost of living crisis is killing us, like some people genuinely believe that and they can't see any other possibility of a different belief system. Being able to have those conversations with them and make them realize that there is evidence out there that disproves that belief. And if you choose to believe in something that's going to serve you over something that's not serving you, like if it's not true either way, 100% of the time, like wouldn't you rather believe in something that's going to push you close towards your goals? So that was really cool. Up until this stage, I was quite happy with my investments. I then moved into realizing I had really bad money mindset blocks. And that came from growing up in businesses that very early on, we made a mistake that got us into a $500,000 debt. And, we created a lot of other businesses to be able to pay that debt off. And I guess when you're experienced debt, you live in a state of scarcity. So you don't think you can afford anything. You're scared that even if you've got the money there, that it's going to disappear somehow, or some big payment or expense is going to come up and like rob you of all your money. And so I had to work on my own money mindset because I had a lot of limiting beliefs with charging my worth. And it's really interesting. Something I will add here is that when I went through this, I realized that I doubted my worth and didn't see the value in what I was offering, because a lot of women in the beauty industry also didn't believe in what they were offering. And it actually became this big ripple effect. It's like people in the beauty industry weren't charging what they needed to because they didn't believe in the value or worth of their services, because everyone else has been undercutting and undercharging and the price just kept dropping down. But when it came to them investing in themselves, they felt guilty. They felt like they were unworthy. They felt like they had to ask their partner for permission. And so those were things I noticed that popped up in my life, and I realized I actually need to work on this. So I invested in money mindset coaching. That was like $500. And that really helped me really changed my belief system, my relationship with money. It was quite transformational. And actually, when I did that, it was crazy. What I learned and what I experienced, I was then able to teach other people in my world, and just seeing their belief system shift and the way they were able to achieve results. It created this like flow on effect, and it was really beautiful. So sometimes when I get into a state of scarcity, i.e. bowling not going well, having no money in the bank account, massive expenses coming up, I actually like to go back to that money mindset training and just really anchor into some of the activities and realize what I have gratitude for. And every time I do that, I realize life's not that bad. I'm not going to die. And when you get into that state of abundance again, you actually end up attracting more abundance. So I always come back to that one. I really valued that one. Funnily enough, early on, I also invested in the hiring playbook, and that was essentially a game changer for building scalable systems and processes. So it covered everything from resource forecasting to hiring, onboarding, and team management. And I knew at that stage I wasn't in a position to hire, but I really wanted to learn about it, so I knew if I did want to take on a team, like what do I need to be prepared for? What do I need to work towards? And do you know what? That training kind of sat probably in the back pocket for about a year and a half. But right now, at this season of my life and business, it has been a game changer. Hiring people, onboarding them, interviews, job descriptions, everything has been a breeze. I just couldn't recommend it more. I'm so glad that I was proactive and learned about that early on, and I wasn't trying to do a course in all of the craziness of this or training. Learned so much from it. And what it allowed me to do is think forward. So what do I want my company structure to look like? So if I'm CEO, what are the different roles I need? So do I need someone who's doing marketing? Do I need someone who is bar staff? Do I need someone who's an OBM? Like, I'm just making random stuff up here about different roles, but just so you can see the bigger picture of like, ideally, if I want my business to grow to this revenue, what team do I need supporting me? How much is that going to cost me in an income resource allocation? And how do we look at hiring this person, and when's the right time to hire and continue adding? So I learned so much from that. Really, really, I'm grateful for doing that early on, because right now it has made my life a breeze with scaling the bowling alley. Now, after being in a few group coaching programs, I realized that I wanted some one-on-one support. Like, I wanted someone to dive deep with me in my business and work on one of my greatest weaknesses. And that was systems, processes, and automations at that time. This is one of the investments that was probably the worst one I've ever made. And I learned a lot about vetting the people that you're investing in. So I paid $15,000. It was $2,500 a month. And what he was meant to do was come into my business, and he did weekly one-on-one calls. But every time there was a call, like at the time of the call, he'd say, oh, actually, I've got to go pick the kids up from school, or oh, I can't show up to this, or oh, we'll just reschedule. And so it became really frustrating. And on my behalf, I should have pulled him up about it earlier, but I was a bit of a people pleaser. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh yeah, no, it's all fine. Like I understand. But what ended up happening was I paid him $15,000. I had him make my VA cry because he obviously had a lot of emotional and mental things going on in his own life. And he didn't hand over anything. For some reason, he didn't actually do anything. Like I can't even explain it. He was meant to come in and build out sales funnels, so landing pages, payment gateways, emails into a whole system, and none of it happened. I later found out that I wasn't the only one this had happened to. There was another woman. She had the same issue. She got paid $15,000 refund. And then there was a second woman who had the exact same thing, and she got paid out a $7,500 refund. And I was also in the same position, and they were both supporting me in terms of like, what he's done is wrong. He's just taking money. He's not delivering anything. And it was really hard for me because I don't know. I just sat there and I was like, I can't afford a lawyer right now and I don't know what to do. And I felt like I was getting all walked over. And yeah, it ended up being a big thing. I actually met him in person when I went to Sydney, and his girlfriend at the time. And like, keep in mind that they're like 40, and she was a coach for relationships essentially. And I went out for a dinner on the first night with them, and, you know, they had a big argument and got kicked out of the venue, like publicly yelling at each other. So there were a lot of red flags and warning signs, and I was trying to pull out of it, but he was like, no, you've signed the contract, like you're locked in. So it was kind of a really awkward and toxic relationship, and it just felt like there was too much personal stuff getting brought into it. So yeah, not a great thing. I walked away with nothing. I sent a letter of demand and, you know, sent an email about all the things that had gone wrong throughout the 6-month contract. And then he just did some scare tactics, tried to he sent an email back saying that if I pursue it legally, I'll be liable for any fees, and he's spoken to his lawyer friend, all this crap, and it was just a scare tactic. Anyways, this is not defamation. This is not causing problems or anything like that, but the reason why I am sharing this is because that was something that I have to take personal responsibility on, because A, I didn't do my due diligence on the coach. B, I didn't call out the red flags or warning signs early on. And C, trying to get that money back, trying to do a refund, I was, you know, kind of blackmailed, and I went to the ACCC, nothing happened. They don't care about anything if it's, you know, unless it's a big amount, like even under $10,000, they won't look at you. Whereas like I know mine was $15,000, but that wasn't going anywhere. So that was something I learned the hard way, and learn from my mistakes, do your research, talk to some of the people who have actually worked with that coach. I think that's great. Look at their video testimonials, have a conversation with those people, because they will give you a true insight as to what it's like, and that can really put your mind at ease. So whenever you're checking the referral source, also make sure that it's not their partner. Lol. So moving on from that, I ended up joining the Point One Mastermind, which was a 33,000 USD program. So that converts to $50,000. This was the most advanced business coaching program I'd been a part of. So it's got all the top coaches in Australia. So Point One, it's essentially like the 0.1%. And I really did learn a lot from that. I learned how to grow and scale the coaching business, how to have group coaching instead of just doing one-on-one. And more importantly, I learned how to become a public speaker, how to create events, how to run events. And one of the coolest things was I got to work with a lot of industry leaders in the coaching world. So we had Pedro Adao, Eli Wild, who was head of Tony Robbins Sales, Russell Brunson, he's with ClickFunnels, Crystal Morel. So you know, when you get to be in these rooms of people who are absolutely killing it, like multi-million-dollar coaching businesses, you see their strategies, it just expands your awareness. Like, I'm not joking. I remember thinking that the most amount of money I would ever make in my life is 60 grand a year. And that was purely because of where I grew up. I grew up in the country. I see a lot of people there, they're tradies, they're small business owners, or they work in a hospital, or they're a teacher. And, you know, it wasn't until I moved to Perth that my mind went, oh, okay, maybe I could make like 80 to 100K a year. And then when I joined these coaching programs and I saw these people who were making like $500,000, $1 million, $3 million, $10 million, I was like, damn. And you were just a normal person who learned how to do this. And so that the greatest gift of that was like expanding my awareness of to what I could achieve in this lifetime and what type of impact you can actually make. And it wasn't like just the dollar amount. It was, I got to help 1,000 people, or I got to help these women leave their toxic relationships with domestic abuse, or I got to empower the person with an eating disorder to love herself again, or I got to help, there was crazy ones. Like I got to help people who were terrified of being a public speaker get on stages and deliver at TEDx talks, and just being in these rooms, seeing these people, it just expanded what I believe was going to be possible for me. And I loved it, but when I actually started implementing all the strategies, I burned out hard. The business model was not for me. And I realized that everything can sound great, but until you go implement, you got to figure out what works for you. And it didn't work for me. And the reason why was like, you do a 5-day challenge, and then every 3 months, you need to do a 2-day business seminar essentially. And then twice a year, you do a in-person 3-day boot camp. And I was just like, this is so much time and energy. And I'm actually spending so much time just constantly marketing to get all these people in, but then I'm not having enough time or energy to actually coach people and help. And that was the whole reason why I wanted to do coaching. So really interesting to see how these bigger coaches and businesses scale. But then when I actually was in it and I was doing it, I realized this isn't for me. And so ended up finishing up there, and I then joined Success School, and I did, Bali business retreat. That was all fun. So that was 8,225. And at the time of me joining, I think it's like 17K now. But what that allowed me to do is really simplify my business model and just get clear on where I stood in the industry. I think I trialed and tested a few different things, and I was like, none of these are really exciting me, or I'm not living the life I want as a business owner. So like what I mean by this is, if you're running your business and you're constantly burning out, you're not even enjoying it anymore. It's like, what's the point? And so when I was able to actually just give myself the permission of like, I can do whatever I want, however I want, and as long as it's serving the clients and getting them the results, like that's all that matters. It doesn't have to follow exactly what someone else did. And so I think you look at the Point One Mastermind, that was probably where I was more getting like just mentored and shown exactly, here's what you do, copy this. So whereas Success School, that allowed me to have a bit more creative freedom of how I wanted to set up my business and choose what felt right for me. So I don't know, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if this is helping, but the next big investment I made was my podcast. I knew for over a year that I wanted to create a podcast, but I wasn't quite sure how to go about it, what to do. I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to do it with someone else. And I was like, I don't know anymore. And I think I'm glad I waited to get more clarity on how I wanted to run it, what I wanted to do. And this whole beauty industry leaders business evolved. It became so clear where I wanted to be in the industry, how I wanted to help others. And so what I learned from having the podcast is that it allows me to give value. It allows me to reach new people, but it also allows me to network. And so by having the podcast, I have been able to really, I guess, get more seen in the industry, make higher quality connections, like step outside of my comfort zone, and now create this community of people where I'm able to support them in a higher level. So whether that's free on the podcast or whether that's in the beauty industry leaders community, I'm able to actually give back to the industry. And I think that was the whole reason why I started, right? Like, I found I don't love social media. Let me be real. Like, I honestly find it exhausting trying to show up and do stories all the time and writing captions. And I've always got so much going on, not in a bad way, but like, it's going, sometimes the amount of time it takes me to create all these little 30-second reels, it's just too much effort. So doing the long form content and having the podcast, that was such a great move for me, because all of a sudden I was getting to develop stronger relationships with people. I was getting to actually provide value and knowledge past 15 or 30 seconds. And it attracted a lot higher quality people and clients into my world. And yeah, podcast has been expensive, but I still do believe it's an investment in the business. And, you know, being able to provide that value, being able to have that impact, that's something that I value keeping within the business. So I think that was a big one for me. I was like, I wanted to do it, but the timing and everything. And then I kind of realized there's never going to be a perfect time. So you may as well just do it. But yeah, look, it has not come without its challenges. I feel like the world has definitely tried to stop me from creating the podcast a few times. Like the mic I got broke, and then I was trying to get another mic and they just sold out everywhere. And, you know, having cameras not filming episodes and getting really sick before guests come on. Like, honestly, running a podcast, I love it, but there are definitely some challenges that come with it. So if you're ever thinking of getting into a podcast, first guest on some podcasts before you jump into it, because it's a personal responsibility. I got to make sure I show up every single week, and people are counting on me. And it's the same when you post your content on Instagram, like whether you realize it or not, people are counting on you to show up. And so you got to take that responsibility on board and make sure you do show up. Ain't no rest for the wicked. Just kidding. And then next up, the investment I made, I decided to do PR coaching. So I wanted to get into the news. I wanted to build up my street cred, essentially. And I think business awards have always been a little funny for me. And I think that's because I've come from being in a beauty pageant and then also running a pageant and just seeing how those business models work. It's always the people who sell the most tickets or tables and stuff that somehow end up getting the award every year. And I'm not calling out anything in particular. I'm just saying in general, that's what I have noticed. And I found like, well, I'm just going to try and build up my credibility in the public eye. And so that's what I've been able to do through PR. So I was learning how to pitch. I was learning how to get into contact with people, building up my contacts. And I was able to get front cover of the newspaper and have an exclusive 2-page article write-up, which was amazing, like I mentioned in one of the other episodes. And then also being able to have the news interview. So we went on 7 News and we were able to get in Regional 7 and then also on the Perth News. So being able to get PR is a super valuable strategy for your business long term if you want to really dominate in the local area and have people know you exist. So you're not competing on just the online space of social media. You're actually getting seen in the public eye, and that's going to happen on news outlets, social media. Then you can leverage those media channels on your website. You can leverage it on your emails, like everything like that, to build more social proof and credibility. So that was a really valuable skill for me to learn, because I realized if I wanted to pay PR agencies and work with them, they cost minimum 3 to 10K a month. You're not even guaranteed that you're going to get into any of the media. And most of these people set up, 3 to 6 month retainers for you. So you have to continue working with them until they potentially get you in an article. So I think that learning that was valuable in the sense that now I can go out and do it and I don't have to rely on an agency and spend such high fees to get to that stage. Then I'm pretty naturally great at Instagram. I'm not going to lie. I'm across most of it. But I thought, you know what? I like the beginner's mindset. I like going in and just seeing where everyone else is at. What can I learn from this? What can I improve about my current strategy? And so I booked in an Insta Upskill day, which was a whole day learning about how to optimize your profile, how to set up your funnel, how to set up all of your content. I thought it was actually really valuable. I was grateful to know that I was on the right track by going, I've got majority of this stuff down pat, but I learned so much about the new features that are coming out and how we can really leverage them. Like I didn't even know about frequently asked questions. Now Instagram has this DM thing where it has these frequently asked questions and you can put what are some of the common questions that your clients might ask you, like How do I book? How do I prepare for this? And you can write an Instagram response and it will just automatically send that out to them. I think that was really cool. So little things like that, really valuable to stay ahead of the industries, to stay ahead of the changes, because majority of people are just going, oh, this is too much, or they just watch heaps and heaps of free content and they're not actually learning deep strategies. So that was like 1,646. And then mindset coaching, I'm not going to lie, I'm not perfect. My mindset hit such a bad plateau and I was like, I can't project this crap onto other people. I need to make sure that I'm working through this. I became really emotionally numb, mostly because of the high levels of pressure and stress that I was going through. And this is something that you need to be able to take on as a coach. People come to you with their problems all the time. And most of the time it's easy to manage if things are going well in your life. But if things are going bad in your life and you're going through a lot, it can be really hard to sometimes hold yourself well. And so the mindset coaching really helped me do some shadow work, really touch on energetics. I was like, what is this witchy woo? But it actually allowed me to really tap into like my emotions and how I'm feeling and stop numbing myself off from everything and realizing how to like regulate my nervous system again instead of constantly being stuck in the state of flight or flight and hustling hard. So that was really interesting. I found that was $900. And then my next big investment that I made was deciding this year I wanted to work one-on-one with a coach. And that coach is helping me build out beauty industry leaders. And I found that to be so, so valuable. I've learned so much about building out a membership model already and what you need to be aware of, how you can create value, how you can keep the retention up in terms of doing events. So the future of beauty industry leaders for me is looking really bright in what I'm creating and what I'm delivering. And I think that by having someone who's already done all these things before me and being able to consult and step into my business and show me the exact pathway of what I need to do, but also allow me to add my own flair onto it, I'm really, really optimistic about what this can bring to the beauty industry. I don't think anything's like it. So I'm excited. I think for so long I thought, I have to do it all on my own, have to do this, have to figure this out. But to be honest, having someone who's already done it and asking them the questions and they're giving you the guidance, it makes all the difference. So I've invested $5,253 so far in that. And then lastly, I had a bit more HR support. So resources, training, a bit more consulting. So we have essentially a platform that we can show our employees video training, so we didn't have to build them all out ourselves because we just didn't have the time. And they got 24/7 support. So if there's any struggles we have with contracts or anything like that, or policies, procedures, they've got us sorted. So that's been $2,764. So to just give you an overview of what it's cost me to become who I am today and the knowledge, I've spent over $130,000. And I think that if you have spent money on one online course and then you're deciding to get into this space, you're going to struggle. You're honestly going to struggle. But, I'm thinking about these cosmetic tattoo artists, right? I know one client who she did one training and she was struggling for ages and she just put it on the back burner. She ended up investing in like 4 courses and she is doing amazing now. She's able to hit 20K months consistently because of the investments she made in herself, not only learning how to provide a better service and get better results, but also really being able to understand how to consistently get the clients and grow the business. So everything goes hand in hand. And I think that when you are making investments in your business throughout your journey, you've got to look at what is the knowledge gap, what is the skills gap, and what's going to help me get to that stage I need to be at. And so if you look at all the investments I've made, all the things I've learned, and how I've evolved to become the business coach I am today, it's purely because I went, what do I not understand? What do I not know? Who do I ask for help? Who's the expert? And so if you keep asking the people at the top of their game, the industry leaders, and you learn from them and you continue upskilling, you start to get results a lot faster. You move through things that might take some people, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years to achieve. You can collapse that time into half a year, or 3 months. And so I think what I'm getting at here is based on all the investments you've made, whether it's learning from people, it's through the mistakes you've made, it's through the education you've had, your experience, what can you teach others to collapse that time? How can you teach someone to have the best skills, be the best in the industry, and like fast track what they're currently struggling with? And so you got to provide the value. You got to be the best at what you do. And you also got to be willing to still have that beginner's mindset and continue learning and upskilling and growing. And I think when we look at coaching, we're not perfect. When we look at educators, we're not going to get it right every single time. But the fact that we've done it more, we've invested more, and we've learned more, that gives us a advantage over people who, are maybe starting out or who have maybe been struggling with the challenge for so long and don't know how to move through it. And so instead of thinking about how much money can I make if I get into doing this type of business, drop that mentality and think about how much value do I have to give? Who can I help the most? How much is this going to impact their life? How do I structure it in a way that's going to be easy for them to learn and implement? All of a sudden, you're going to shift the narrative of your future. The people who are money hungry in this space, they always get found out. They get cancelled. But the people who genuinely care about being the best, providing value and helping others and making that impact and leaving that lasting legacy within the industry, they're the ones that continue to stay, continue to evolve, get the glowing reviews and consistent referrals. And so with that in mind, if you're thinking of getting into this kind of space next year, I really want you to ask yourself, how are you going to go about it and what you're going to do? Because there are a lot of things that are coming your way that you're not even going to know about. And so something that I want to encourage you to do is, if you are looking at getting into the education, the training space, coaching or consulting, and you're not sure what that roadmap looks like, you're not sure how to get started, you're not sure how to build out your offers, you're not sure how to create the content, what works best, how to deliver it, what platforms you need to be using, what softwares, how much it's going to cost, send me a DM. Because I'm really looking forward for 2025 to empower more people who are industry professionals at what they do, and they're just struggling to figure out how to package it all together and sell it. Because I know there's some people in this industry who, and this might be you, you've been on the tools for a while, you have some incredible skills, and you're thinking, how do I actually monetize that knowledge? And I see a few people who walk out of the industry and they go, I'm just going to have to work FIFO, or I'm just going to have to create an office job because maybe their back's giving in, or maybe they've got RSI and carpal tunnel syndrome or something like that. But if you are looking to become that trainer, that educator, that consultant, or that coach, and you're not sure what that pathway looks like, I have built out the Beauty Industry Leaders sales funnel. Essentially, this is all of the knowledge that I've accumulated over the last almost 3 years of coaching, and what's allowed me to make over $200K in my first 2 years. Now, 0.02% of coaches make more than $100,000 in the first year of coaching. And I strongly believe that the reason why I was able to make over $100,000, or hit that $100,000, I should say, was purely because I invested so much in learning and trialing and testing. And so if you're someone who has so much value you want to share with the world, and you're really looking to become that industry leader, you're looking to shape more authority and give back to others, then I want to help you fast track that, because all of us can come together and offer something valuable that's going to help evolve and raise the standards of our industry. There are many people out there who are offering incredible things. They just don't know how to sell it, or they don't know how to get more clients. Or maybe they're not sure what the best way to do it is. And it's just like, I've got all these ideas in my head. And so moving into 2025, if you are wanting to go down that pathway and get some support, send me a DM. Let's have a chat, because I am going to be giving away my exact framework and process. And it's not in the way that I'm saying you have to follow this step by step. This is the only way you will succeed, but it gives you different options, and you can actually find the business model and way of delivering it that's going to work best for you and your lifestyle. So with that being said, I know there was a lot here. There was a few positives, there were a few negatives, there were some different insights of the investments I've made. And most importantly, I hope that you were able to maybe think about what that future looks like for you and how you're going to go about doing it. Because it's not an easy journey, but it is incredibly fulfilling and rewarding once you get it right. So I hope that in 2025, I can help empower more people to go from beauty pros to industry leaders. And if that person's you, I would love to have a chat ahead of 2025. Anyways, that is everything for today. I know I have spoken so much. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. And I really wish you all the best for the last couple weeks of madness within the beauty industry, and that you have an amazing Christmas and New Year. And I will tune in with you on the next episode. Bye now.
Audience exclusive.